£100. That is what it now costs to fill up your car in Britain. £100 because the President of the United States decided to publicly humiliate your Prime Minister and tell an entire nation to, quote, go and get your own oil. And if you think that is the worst of it, wait until you hear what British police have been doing with 250,000 robbery cases, or rather, what they have not been doing. We are also going to talk about why the Royal Navy just admitted it is not ready for war, and why a council in Essex paid over £500,000 to a man whose job was trolling the internet. Stay until the end, because what I have saved for last might change how you think about British law enforcement. If this kind of honest, no-spin analysis matters to you, hit that like button and subscribe. Every like, every comment, it tells YouTube to show this to more people. And if you want to go further, consider sponsoring the channel or using super thanks. We spend hours researching, fact-checking, verifying every claim because the last thing this world needs is more fake news. Your support keeps this work independent. Now let us get into it. Here is what happened. Donald Trump posted on Truth Social, and I am paraphrasing only slightly, that Britain and the rest of NATO should stop expecting American help and start drilling their own oil. His exact words were, all those countries that cannot get jet fuel, go to the Strait and just take it. You will have to start learning how to fight for yourself. Every major British newspaper led with this story. The Daily Mirror demanded that the King cancel his planned visit to the United States, and the Financial Times quietly dropped a bombshell of its own, which we will get to in a moment. But here is what most people miss. Britain does not actually get its oil from the Strait of Hormuz. The main suppliers are Norway, the United States, and Sweden. The price spike at British petrol stations, now above £1.40 per litre, is not caused by a supply cut. It is caused by global market panic because everyone is competing for shrinking volumes. Trump started a war that disrupted world oil flows, then pointed his finger at allies and told them it was their problem. And speaking of readiness, or the lack of it, the First Sea Lord, Britain's most senior naval commander, publicly admitted for the first time that the Royal Navy was not prepared for war. This is not speculation. This is the head of the fleet saying it out loud. The Daily Telegraph reported that Prime Minister Starmer and Chancellor Reeves were briefed on the urgent need to raise defense spending to 3% of GDP. Meanwhile, Iran has threatened to strike British military bases that host American forces. Defense Secretary Healey responded by announcing additional troops and air defense systems to the region. But here is the uncomfortable question. If the admiral in charge of your navy says it is not ready, and the country that dragged you into this confrontation just told you to fight on your own, where exactly does that leave Britain? Somewhere between a rock and a very expensive hard place. Now let me introduce you to British policing in 2026. 92% of robberies in the United Kingdom are closed without a single suspect identified. 250,000 cases. In some parts of London, not a single robbery was solved. Zero. And officers refused to investigate multiple cases, citing that doing so might, and I am quoting directly, harm the public interest. 250,000 people reported being robbed, and in 92 out of every 100 cases, nobody was even questioned. But what most people do not realize is what is happening at the local government level, and this story is genuinely astonishing. The Labour government is restructuring local councils in Essex, splitting the county into 5 unitary authorities. Former Home Secretary Priti Patel called it the destruction of a great county. In reality, the borders of Essex are not changing at all. This is purely about how the administration is organised. So why the hysteria? Because the Conservatives have controlled Essex County Council for over 20 years, and their leader chose precisely this moment to resign. The real fear is not reform. The real fear is the audit, because when new authorities take over, they open the books. And what might those books reveal? Well, consider this. The council paid £530,000 to one individual for social media promotion during the pandemic. Of that sum, £363,000 went directly into his pocket. And the man was best known for trolling Conservatives online. As one commentator put it, stop giving billion-pound budgets to amateur pensioners in need of a hobby and then acting surprised when they get scammed. While we are on the subject of things that seem broken, let me ask you something. When did it become normal for 1 in 10 young people to carry a diagnosis of ADHD or autism? The Times published the results of a government investigation on its front page. The findings are striking. Diagnoses have become, in effect, a tool for securing special accommodations in education and employment. Normal childhood behavior is increasingly being filtered through a medical lens. The newspaper chose to lead with this story over the war, which is either editorial courage or editorial exhaustion with the Middle East, perhaps both. And then there is the spy story. The Times reported that the wife of a British member of parliament is suspected of spying for China. She is described as extremely close to a senior naval officer connected to Britain's nuclear deterrent program. The details are classified, but the scale of potential damage is enormous. Britain's nuclear secrets possibly compromised through a personal connection nobody flagged in time. Now, if you have been keeping count, you will notice a pattern. The Navy is not ready. The police do not investigate. The councils are being looted. The diagnostic system is being gamed. And the security services may have missed a spy near the nuclear program. This is the Britain that Keir Starmer woke up to this morning. And on top of all of it, the President of the United States just told him to go find his own oil. If you are finding this valuable, drop a comment below. Tell me what story shocked you the most. Your comments are what keep this channel alive. Crossing the Atlantic now. Here is the part of the Trump story the British press buried beneath petrol prices. Trump is losing control of the war he started. Iran prepared for this confrontation for decades. The assessment is clear. Trump now needs Iran's permission to end this war, and Tehran believes it can outlast the White House. There are no negotiations on the horizon because Trump is still threatening war crimes, which makes compromise even less likely. And while American soldiers are deployed in a conflict with no clear exit strategy, something deeply troubling emerged in the Financial Times. The personal broker of Defense Secretary Hegseth reportedly explored investments in defense funds just before the attack on Iran. Let that sink in. The man responsible for sending troops into combat may have had a financial interest in the conflict escalating. The term for that is insider trading. On a battlefield, with lives. And one final thought from across the channel. There is a deep irony in Trump telling Europe to become self-sufficient, because that is precisely what Europe started doing in 2025, buying European weapons instead of American ones, building European defense infrastructure instead of relying on NATO stockpiles. Trump demanded independence and got it. And now he is furious, because independence meant they stopped buying American. He wanted autonomy in theory, he got it in practice, and the invoice went somewhere he did not expect. That last story about British policing, the one where 92% of robberies go unsolved, it does not just tell you about crime. It tells you about a country where the social contract is quietly unraveling, when the state cannot protect you from robbery, cannot defend its own seas, cannot audit its own councils, and cannot even screen the people closest to its nuclear program. That is not a series of isolated failures. That is a pattern. And the question is not whether someone will fix it. The question is whether anyone in power has even noticed.